Trade alert! Are the Saints adding the next Marques Colston to New Orleans? Paid too much for the Broncos wide receiver. Ladies and gentlemen, today this video is about Devon Vele and the Saints trade. We covered it on the channel, but now we're going to watch Matthias cover it as well. Okay, so I had a tweet that said, how many people are going to say, is Devon Vele the next Michael Thomas? Close, but no cigar. I should have said Marques Colston. That was on me. And if you aren't following me on Twitter and Instagram, what the hell are you even doing with your life? All right, I post all kind of updates nonstop. I'm always rambling and musing about the games I'm watching at the time, or you can even see what I'm doing at the games, right? Getting dome dogs, where I'm eating around New Orleans, all that fun stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and listen to Matty Matt talk about Devon Vele.
What an oddity for the New Orleans Saints. They play Jacksonville on Sunday, and hours later they trade Colin Saunders to Jacksonville.
Y'all remember the oddities from WWE or WWF at the time in like the mid-90s? How many oddities can you name? I can name Kurgan. I think that might be it. I remember the guy with the South Park shirt, but I think Kurgan is the only one that I can actually name.
Now the Saints are about to play the Broncos on Saturday in just a few days.
Oh, by the way, the Kellen Saunders trade, yeah, he just didn't fit 3-4. That's it. He didn't fit 3-4. They had to move him. Got some offensive line depth. It is what it is.
Before that game, they trade for Denver wide receiver Devon Vele.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, I'll give you a little background on Devon Vele. So he's 27 years old.
Yeah.
And he's in his second year in the NFL. He went to Utah. So those guys who go on the LDS missions, obviously, they're older. So he's a 27-year-old second-year pro. He's 6'5", 210 pounds. So he's a big-bodied wide receiver. And last year, as a rookie, he was a seventh-round pick of the Broncos and had 41 catches for just under 500 yards, 3 touchdowns in just 13 games.
Guy had some pretty nice numbers, some underlying metrics. So if you go look at him, I know he ranked top 40 in most metrics. I think his, whatever it is, the receiving percentage per separation or whatever metric had him like in the top 10. So the guy can play the game. Okay, now you have to wonder, is he a 7th-round pick because of his age? Did he slide in the draft because of his age? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. But look, bottom line is this is a position and a player that we need. And I think this was good business by the Saints. We'll see how it all plays out with the draft pick with Paulson Adebo and Isaac Adam and the 4th rounder or whatever it ends up being. But this was a move that I think is going to pay off. Now, I'm not saying this guy's Michael Thomas. I'm not saying this guy's Marques Colston. But I do think he will be an impactful player this year, right now. I think he'll be an impactful player today, or not today. Today there's no game. But this season, we're going to see this guy show out and show up.
So as a rookie, 7th rounder, he ended up being quite productive. Sean Payton, a year ago, compared Devon Vele to another big-bodied 7th-round pick at receiver you might recognize.
The strengths for him certainly are his hands. You guys saw it in camp. He's got strong hands in traffic. He's a guy that plays well over the middle. He reminds me a lot of Marques Colston, who I had in New Orleans for 10 or 11 years. Very quickly, we've seen his growth. So in our staff meeting 20 minutes ago, I said, we got to continue to find touches for him.
Now, well, who the hell is this guy?
That is high praise.
By the way, this is another little interesting wrinkle I'm sure no one's thought about. If Sean Payton, now this is some real hopium copium. If Sean Payton drafted him, and you believe in Sean Payton as a drafter, now this is really going to get tricky. This is a good old-fashioned Sudoku puzzle. You have to then assume this guy's got something, not something special, but he's got something. If Sean Payton's drafted him, and we know how good Sean Payton is at finding the diamonds in the rough and whatnot, the guy did perform well, certainly for a 7th-round pick. So that alone should give you some confidence that there's something there.
That is Sean Payton, one of the brightest offensive minds ever, comparing Devon Vele to Marques Colston, the greatest receiver in New Orleans Saints history. Payton also just...
Breaking news, I just saw it come through. The Commanders are trading Brian Robinson to the 49ers in exchange for a 6th-round pick. Interesting for the 49ers because of Christian McCaffrey. I know a lot of people were saying the Saints should probably take a look at Brian Robinson, but there you go. So breaking news.
8 days ago, So again, if you're thinking, well, they were just looking to move on from it, this was Sean Payton just 8 days ago talking about the progress Devon Vele's made in year 2.
I've said this before, even a year ago. He's extremely smart. He can play a lot of the positions. He's a good blocker. I like his size. It's a good chess piece for us, the things that he does well. Certainly year 2 for him, but year 1 was accelerated learning for him as well. We found him playing more than just one position. Sometimes that's not the case, and part of it is the maintenance on his knee, making sure he's fresh, and it's a little bit easier to maintain in season than when you're just stacking day after day in training camp. So we'll continue to find his spots. He's a big target on 3rd down and in the red zone.
Okay.
What do we need? I mean, I could just end the video right here, honestly. I mean, this is Sean Payton, Hall of Fame coach, greatest coach in Saints history until Kellen Moore. Oh, I mean, it is what it is. He's telling you the exact reason why the Saints made this trade. Kellen Moore, we know, wants to use his players as chess pieces. So does Brandon Staley. But he wants to use players in different positions, different situations to match them up in the best spot for them. All right? What else do the Saints need? Receiver over 6 foot. What else do the Saints need? Red zone threat. What else do the Saints need? Third down target. If you're still wondering why the Saints made this trade, I don't know what to tell you.
That's Sean Payton just 8 days ago. Still very high in Devon.
Oh, James. Well, here you go, James. You think you're so smart? If he's so good and Sean Payton likes him so much, and he's got all this ability, well, then why did the Broncos trade him? He must suck if the Broncos traded him. So stick that in your pipe and smoke it, face of the franchise. Well, listen, what I'll say to that is this. The Broncos had a tough decision to make between Pat Bryant and this young hombre right here, Devon Vele. When you're at a decision point like that and someone else makes a decision for you in the form of a 4th-round pick, you say, okay, well, decision's made. It is what it is. We're going to go with Pat Bryant. We're going to focus on him. We like Devon Vele. He's cool, but for a 4th, we'll make the decision. Now, for the Saints, they could be looking at their defensive back saying, hey, I don't think Isaac Adams is going to get whatever percentage of snaps. We're probably getting that 4th back. Word? Trade it to the Broncos. We'll get Devon Vele. Okay. Well, other teams are offering a 5th. Perfect. We can offer a 4th, but we can also kind of get it back. Ooh, that's sneaky. Thanks. Hey, have you seen James' new latest hat drop? Wow. The face of the franchise hat? Yeah. And he also has the no filter hats. What do they look like? Oh my God. Look at him. Boom. Wow. That guy's, not only does that guy know everything about football, he's also an absolute fashion icon. Unfreaking believable. What the hell was I talking about?
Vele.
I feel like Eddie Murphy. I just play like 9 different characters. I basically just did the whole entire movie Norbit.
And this makes a lot of sense for New Orleans. Look, you've got Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. Those are your unquestioned numbers 1 and 2. And then you went and signed Brandin Cooks this offseason.
Yes.
And, I didn't like adding Brandin Cooks, and it's not that I don't think Brandin Cooks has any gas left in the tank. From all accounts, I'm talking to Ross Jackson and folks that cover the team and have been out there.
Trivia. Pop quiz. Why do you think the Saints added Brandin Cooks? Trivia. Anybody can answer.
At camp, Brandin Cooks still continues to play well and make an impact. The problem is Brandin Cooks is 5'10".
Ooh. That's a hint. You want me to tell you the answer? Because your top 2 wide receivers are injury prone. So you get a veteran who can slide in for either one if they do get injured. Damn. Makes sense now, doesn't it?
And
so Brandin Cooks was not acquired to necessarily be the number 3, which he could be, but he was acquired as a replacement for either of your top 2 wide receivers if they do get injured. Whereas last year, did not have that.
Chris Olave is right at 6 foot or a hair under. Rashid Shaheed, they have listed at 6 foot. I think those are generous. Mason Tipton's 5'11". You don't have any big receivers. So, yeah, you go get a guy that's 6'5", 210 pounds.
Also, this is a bit of a... This is too... It's too, like, popular to say, like, big body receiver or whatever. It's not just that you want a receiver at a certain height or weight or whatever. The whole thing for the Saints is that you want to give Kellen Moore as many chess pieces as possible. And if you don't have a 6'5" receiver or a 6'4" receiver or whatever, he cannot move the chess pieces. You can't do what they're going to ask Devon Vele to do with the combination of Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Brandin Cooks. So then you have to make Juwan Johnson do it. Well, now you just have another chess piece. You just add another tool. That's it. The days of looking at wide receivers is just all the same. The days of looking at running backs is all the same. And, like, the days of what makes a good running back. Does he run good? It's like, that's not really all of it, right? That's not the whole thing. What makes a good quarterback? Does he have a strong arm? That's not really the whole thing. You know, like, football's a little different now. So it's more about giving Kellen options than just a blanket idea of a big body receiver or just another receiver.
Strong hands, big body, bigger catch radius. Yeah, of course this is something that they need. And then there's the whole part about the compensation. And I think this is the part that maybe a lot of people are questioning. No one's questioning. Look, Sean Payton co-signing on Devon Vele, great. Comparison to Marques Colston. Makes sense for New Orleans, needed a big-bodied receiver. By the way, Kellen Moore even said that. He said, why did they, this is number 5 about needing size at receiver.
We certainly felt like if it presented itself, it would be a great opportunity. We feel great about that room. There's tons of good players in that room, and we feel like there's a lot of contributors that will contribute this year. And so, again, depth is obviously very valuable in this league, and so we felt like we added a big piece to it.
Okay, so Bub Means, who you drafted a year ago in the 5th round, who's that big-body receiver, hurt, on IR, done for the year. So you feel like, okay, you need another big-bodied receiver there. A lot of people are focusing on the fact that Vele a year ago was a 7th-round pick, and you gave up this year's 4.
And next year's 7. You got to quit looking at it like that.
And next year's 7 to get him. A couple things. Look at the Saints' history, and generally, every other year, they don't make a 4th-round pick. They've used that as trade bait. For example, this year they had 2 4s. And they took Danny Stutzman and Quincy Riley. I think we're all very high on those 2 players.
Yeah, they're freaking sweet. It's a great example, right? Danny Stutzman was drafted 5 months ago, whatever, give or take, rounding error. Would you trade, if you're another team, would you trade a 3rd for him? Probably. But James, he was taking the 4th. He wasn't taking the 3rd. Can't trade a 3rd for a guy who wasn't taking the 3rd. Things change. The second the draft is over, take ADP, average draft position, crumple it up, throw it away. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Ladd McConkey, 2nd-round pick. I would trade a 1st for him.
In 2024, they didn't have a 4th-round pick. In 23, they had 2. Saldivari and Jake Haener. Neither are really becoming impactful players. They didn't have a 4th-rounder in 2022. In 2021, it was Ian Book, who obviously not a contributing player, not even here anymore. They didn't have one in the COVID year. In 2019, their 4th-round pick was C.J. Gardner-Johnson. CD Deuce, undeniable hit. He's a starter in the NFL, really good player. The year before that, they took Rick Leonard in the 4th round. Didn't even make the team. They didn't have one in 2017.
Last time the Falcons had a winning season, 2017.
In 2016, they took David Onyemata. So you can kind of see, every other year, they don't have a 4th-rounder. And really, they've hit on 2 guys, CD Deuce, David Onyemata.
Now, is that correlated? Another trivia question. Is that run of fourth-round picks, is that correlated or is that relevant at all to this situation? Why or why not? Explain in the space below. Maybe I should do like a football, like a 101 like crash course like exam. Like just put out like quarterly exams to make sure everyone's paying attention. The answer is no. Okay. Why? Because that's 3 different staffs. So you've got Payton's staff. So who's making the decisions, who's making the draft picks, who has roster control. Then you have, if you go all the way back, you also have to factor in like who's on the team. So, fourth round, like different positions are filled. Then you go to Dennis Allen's staff. Okay, who's making the decisions, who's making roster control, who's making draft decisions, whatever, who's in the room, who's in the scouting department. And then now this year, with Kellen Moore's staff. So who's in the scouting department, who's making roster decisions, who has control. So going back that far, bit useless because it is multiple different people in the decision process. So
there's a lot of Kyrie Fort and Nick Toon in round 4 throughout the Saints' history. Al Woods was a 4th rounder back in 2010. Stanley Arno and Chip Vaughn, the teammates from Wake Forest that the Saints took in the 4th round back in 2009, were 4th rounders.
You could even argue, and this would be on page 2 of the Blue Book. This would probably get you extra credit on the quarterly exam. You could even argue the fact that NIL is now around makes players stay around in college longer, which then makes prospects better, which then makes the 4th round deeper now versus 5 years ago or so. So you could also argue like the level of a 4th rounder, and all kind of stuff going on, ladies and gentlemen. We're thinking. We're thinking.
Antonio Pittman was a 4th rounder, didn't make the team as a rookie. Now Jermon Bushrod was a 4th rounder, but the point is,
what is the point?
Really a 50-50 proposition as to whether or not you're even going to get a contributing player in round 4 based on the Saints' history. So if you're giving up a 4 for a guy that can play in the league, you're eliminating the uncertainty about the player that comes along sometimes with missing in the draft.
Now that part, that is kind of a core philosophy that I have with draft picks and trading draft picks. I'm always for trading a draft pick for a player that I know can play because, the draft picks are just baked in variability, and why not, right? Especially for someone who's in his 2nd year, take the guesswork out of it, but also you're kind of front-loading the draft because let's say you hold on to that 4th. This is this is all pretty obvious here. You hold on to the 4th, you're not going to get that player. You're not going to realize that until next year, possibly the year after that, right? But if you're like, I need whatever it is now. I need the wide receiver now. I need the big body wide receiver now. I need the guard now. I need the tackle now. I need whatever you're trading for now. Then front-load it. Then basically say, it's not exactly this is a really back of the napkin way to think about this, but it's like you're almost making the draft pick now. Like you're drafting Devon Vele in the 4th round now, if you want to look at it like that. So I'm always for just go get the player, go get the talent. If you know he's there and you like him and he fits what you're trying to do, and go whatever. I will say this, however, and this. You hear me say all the time, I love the digital era because everything we say is recorded. Yeah.
And if you have the time tolerance or desire to go back, you can listen to anything that I said on this show before or after the NFL draft. And one of the positions I and many of you wanted the Saints to address was receiver. They needed to go get a big-bodied receiver because they didn't have that for all the reasons I just said. And then after the draft, takeaway, I liked that they made 9 picks and they got younger, but they didn't select a receiver. So I would just like to point out that our esteemed general manager in New Orleans, Sir Gumsmack and Mick, instead of using 1 draft pick to take a receiver, just used 2 draft picks to trade for a receiver.
Kinda, sorta. Now this is where you can bust out the back of the napkin math. You can look at it a little differently where it's like, well, we had 9 picks. So if we give up a pick, now look, I'm going to bust out. Look, all right, we're going to do some addition. Okay. Now let's say, okay, you have 9 picks, and everyone knows you have 7 picks, right? 7 rounds, whatever. So if you have 9 picks, you can think, all right, well, if I have 7 the next year, that's what? 16. Okay, so that is still a pick extra averaged for both years. That's 8 and 8. Okay, so now you could think, I made 9 picks. I have 7. So if I trade 1, and this didn't even factor in the Adebo compensation, Isaac Adams situation, which you certainly could factor that in. But you can say, all right, well, if I have 9 picks and I trade 1, now I have 6 picks. I have 15 picks total, which is still 1 more than average, which is still 1 more than my base 7 and 7 is 14. So you could think of it as, I got a pick to give away. No harm, no foul, right? I had a pick to play with. You could also have the conversation with the roster, whoever's making the decisions, of, hey, look, we got to get this 4th back. So whatever the parameters of getting that 4th are. A lot of different ways you could look at this. A lot of different ways you can use the eraser.
I'm not good at math. That's well established on this show. That math sucks. Now, I hope that Vele is the next Marques Colston. I hope he's here for a decade. That means he'd have to play at least 37, which I don't think that's going to happen. But I hope he's here for a long time. Is a contributing, big-bodied receiver. Would love to see that happen. And I hope we look back and go, yeah, it was absolutely worth a 4 and a 7. Absolutely. It's also hard not to look back and go, why didn't you just draft a big-bodied receiver? Keep your picks for next year so you can draft more young players.
Well, I talked about that. You're front-loading Vele. Like, yeah, you could hold the picks, draft a big-body wide receiver, but then you have a year you have to wait to get it, and then you have the variability of he might suck. So is the 4th worth the known value of Devon Vele? I would say yes, especially factoring in you could be getting a 4th back, but also factoring in that you made 9 picks. So you're also like over the average. You're already over the average number of picks that you wanted to make for 2 years.
But then again, this is also the general manager that tried to compare Dennis Allen to the likes of Tom Landry and Chuck Payton. So who am I to try to combat logic like that?
It's the same thing with Tyler Shuck. If Tyler Shuck does not work out, yeah, it sucks you wasted a second. You could have got Will Johnson. You could have got Jack Beck. You could have got a defensive tackle. You could have got all kind of stuff, right? Like that, no doubt. No doubt. If he does work out, who cares? Sweet, right? If it does work out, awesome. Same thing with this. If this guy is our number 2 wide receiver, this guy catches 5 touchdown passes, if this guy's utilized, if this guy is good, no one is going to care that we used a 4th round pick on him. Now, if he's a complete washout, yeah, then it's like, okay, we probably should have held on to the pick. But like most trades, you got to wait and see. In this video, I said Brian Robinson was traded for a 6th. On one hand, you could say, well, why don't you just draft a running back in the 6th? Why would you trade one? But you see the line of thinking there is like, okay, well, I'm trading for a known thing. I'm trading for this. Yeah, I could have drafted one, but I need the player now. Like, I'm not going to wait till next year. I need him right now. We're trying to win. So, all right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.